Welcome to Mrs. Papers. Today we're going to talk about painting up the Grymwatch. First the Sepulchral Guard, and now the Grymwatch. What is it with me getting warbands that have 6 different members to choose from? Anywho, this is going to be a little less than a tutorial because I'm working on 6 people at the same exact time, more than an overall painting kind of chat. I'm glad you could hang out with me. But let's go down to Table Town.
Hello, welcome back. Okay, olive green STYNYLREZ primer. We're going to do these, and we're doing 7, not 6 miniatures here in this warband. It seems like a theme for Death Armies to have many hordes of things. I mean, I think that's the way the army kind of works. So just going in with a zenithal prime here, top bottom. I'm going to go through all of them. Next up, a pale yellow STYNYLREZ primer. I mixed that in with the olive green just a little bit, just to have that, you know, nice transition, giving those little highlights just where I think the sun might hit, and using the rule of cool, of course, where, you know, wherever I think a highlight would be great, that's exactly where I'm going to put it. Alright, next up we have some somber gray, and I try to hit some of that, those broken up flagstones that you see on the bottom there, sort of try to mix it in or try to blend it in with my army for their bases, because these bases are pre-done for the Shadespire, Warhammer Underworld warbands. Alright, cold gray is next. I wanted to do a little something different by hitting cold gray on the ends, just to have that different kind of transition right there. For these flagstones over here, do like that they included flagstones, and I like the way that it kind of like blends in with my army this way. Okay, so next up, some SERAPHON Sepia. I'm just going to get the bone bits over there. And the ground itself. We'll get into Argrax Earthshade later. So those are the 2 that I use for the base, and just try to get that dirty color in there. Just being very careful not to hit any of the bones. Again, pre-made bases are like that, so you just have to be careful. Alright, CARROBURG Crimson is next. I'm trying to get the shadows here. This model, I kind of challenged myself by pre-building the entire models, not working in sub-assemblies to be able to do it. I wanted to try to bring it up there and, you know, just go with the flow. This isn't a competition model. I'm building it for the tabletop, so this is my tabletop standard. Mephiston's Red is next. Again, matching my army and having that, I guess, loincloth? Or is it hair? I couldn't tell if that's just overgrown hair. Imagine if it was. Imagine if it was. So Mephiston Red is next. Going to get a nice little base coat. Green and red are the tones for my army. Green, red, and black, really. With some accent bone color. Okay, bone white is next. I'm trying to get the bones that's coming in through here. What I'm doing something a little bit different in this tutorial. Instead of keeping on mentioning the same flashing of colors that I put down there in the comment section, if I mention it once, I'll just mention it again. I just won't, you know, type it out for each time. So just trying something different. Tell me if you like that or not. So yeah, continuing with the bone white as well. Just so I don't have to type in the same colors over and over again. If I said it once, you know, I can say it again, but I won't actually have it printed on the bottom. Be very careful with the eyes. You're studying your hand there. And then Evil Sun Scarlet. And I do that base coat of white, so this way the Evil Sun Scarlet actually pops and it draws your attention to that eye, just leaving a little bit of white in the middle there. Alright, time for CARROBURG Crimson again. Again, just doing that tabard there, just a real wash. That's what I'm going to do. And I say real wash because I usually just don't wash things. Very rarely do I wash things. I usually use the washes through the airbrush itself as well. Okay, so what we have is we're doing the skull carapace. And I didn't realize that he's actually wearing a skull cap. That's pretty cool for this model. I think it's the first model from my Flesh Eater Court Army that actually wore some kind of mask. So that's I found that really entertaining. He's actually wearing the bone, the ribs as a carapace and the spine as well. Okay, just hitting it off with some Evil Sun Scarlets, just to bring up the tips. You can use any brighter red, really. If you mix it in with some game ink from Vallejo, it really does pop that way. It's about as red can get. Black STYNYLREZ primer, of course, I do all the bases like this. And I like STYNYLREZ primer. I'll put a link down in the description for STYNYLREZ primers that I use. So this way you can click on this Amazon affiliate link. Channel gets a kickback if you click onto that. So if you want to support us in that way and you're looking for primer, check it out. Heavy Blue Gray is next. Just trying to get that white-ish kind of hair going on with this guy right here. I found this pretty challenging to get done just right. So just going to practice more with white hair. The hair is not done. Obviously, that was just a base coat. All right, now some basic skin tone. He's holding on a face or a head. So kind of want to get that basic skin tone in there just to, you know, had that like once living kind of face there, decapitation. You gotta bring that up very on multiple coats. I think I did like 4 or 5 coats to be able to get the flesh the way I wanted to get it to. Okay, so now I'm just doing some any kind of like brown that you can do. I believe this is P3 brown, leather brown that I did for that. Okay, some fresh blood from Vallejo Game Effects. Game Effects are pretty cool colors right here. I like to use it as a base tone before I go into my Tamiya blood effects. So I like to use that as a base coat right there. I'm going to have that in the link in the description as well. So check that out. All right. Some SERAPHON Sepia going into the bone. Got kind of aggressive with that. Next, Mephiston Red. I'm doing a Citadel layering with white Vallejo acrylic artist ink, and it's like a mix, almost like 50-50. It's getting like that pink color. It goes on super bright now, but it dulls down later and it kind of mutes into itself and makes it look like a scar. All right, some bone white on this guy right here, the big old golf club that I call here, or a huge femur bone. That's what it looks like. And he thinks that's a two-handed sword. In the lore itself, he actually thinks that he's carrying a dual-wielded sword. Because if you don't know, the Flesh Eater Courts itself, they have a delusion. Like, they think they're noble knights going into battle, and they don't realize that they're like raving, cannibalistic lunatics. And the Archregent is the one that puts out all these, or the Ghoul Kings put out all these delusions. All right, so what I did was I hit it with the bone actually with a little bit of gray before I went into the bone white, just to try to like step it up with the lightness right there. I only did 50-50 to preserve some of the shadow, so when I do the bone white, it'll come out that way. So after multiple layers of bone white, I go into steel color from Vallejo Metal Color. I love this stuff. It actually applies and boom, you got some metal going on there. Steel is absolutely a wonderful color. But there are quite a few different kinds of Vallejo metal colors, the only metallics that I use. Alright, going to do some scars again, and that's again the Mephiston Red with the white ink that I use. So just try to get the scars. And there's a lot of repeating here because there's a lot of models and there's a lot of steps that get repeated throughout. And I'm just jumping from one model to the next model, just, you know, whatever. CARROBURG Crimson is next. Again, doing the tabard for this guy. This guy is getting close to completion. I love that. I love actually coming up and taking a model all the way to completion and going on to the next one. DRAKENHOFF Nightshade from Citadel Shades, just to bring some shadow into those flagstones that I have there. I just wanted to reinforce the shadows. I felt like I went a little too aggressive with the heavy blue-gray, so I wanted to bring it back and tone it back down a little bit, putting shadows in the recesses. Okay, next up, Bootstrap Leather, and I'm going to do the wooden bits right here. Why would I paint leather if I'm going to do wood? Well, you'll see. This great step that comes next afterwards, I definitely have to show you in there. But yeah, starting up with a Bootstrap Leather, a nice light leather. that I want to light color that I like to use. And then here it goes, Inktense Wood from Scale 75 Intensity set. I'll put a link down in the description below so you can pick that up if you're interested. Love the Intensity set. Love the Vallejo game ink set. If you haven't been painting with inks, I highly recommend you try it out. And if you're interested in trying it out, why don't you click onto one of the links on the affiliates to help out the channel. But if not, that's pretty cool too. Vallejo model color black is next. I like that it doesn't have any blue in it. It's like a true black in my opinion. So I'm going to do the hair in black in here, just kind of like a Grimer, a worm tongue kind of guy there. That's what I envisioned there. Did some highlights with it as well. All right, he is stepping on some kind of banded knight, I would think, because he has some steel armor plating there. So I wanted to paint the armor plating there. Again, Vallejo model color steel does wonders here. The pigment is so finely ground that it really comes off like steel. All right, so some bile from Minotaur, and I am covering a yellow. I did a yellow base tone in that. I'm going to put some bile in there. It has like a sickly green, and if you have any kind of like sickly green that you want to put in there, you can do that for this as well. I just have the Minotaur on hand, so I wanted to do it. All right, so I'm going to go out there and I'm going to poke some infectious dots inside that big old pus ball right there. Thought it looked like a plague. I'm going to make that like a plague-ish kind of weird big old bump right there. So just put him his fist on red, just poking in some dots in there to really make it look. I'm going to do a nice little glaze of that bile again, so it looks like these dots are inside that big old pus ball instead of just laying on top and looking like an egg. I didn't want it to look like an egg, so that's what I did. Just a little bit of glazing does help. Tapping, very lightly done. And of course he has more than one. We're going to do some violet now, and we're just going to get in the bruising. So I just like doing that violet ink for bruising on green skin. I think it looks really great. And working with ink, again, you can actually dilute it very, you can make it very translucent, and it's great for glazing. Just make sure you mix in some matte varnish with it, because inks itself, they tend to be a little bit reflective, so be careful with that. Now, if you were glazing onto a metallic paint, that'd be a different story. You're going to want that reflection, so you do not put a matte paint on that. Okay, some basic skin tone is next for that head. You're going to see it's going on rather thick. I'm just trying something a little bit different here that I picked up from Alfonso Gilderaz, Big Child Creatives, a couple of the Spanish artists, Sergio Calvo. It's working in a little thicker tones here, shades with some of these lighter colors. And, you know, they have a movement that says forget smoothness. They don't use the word forget. They use a different F word. All right, so I wanted to tell a story with this hand, and that when the flesh eater quartz touch the hand, their delusion is actually transforming it, so it's turning into like a zombie. So I wanted to do that. And to separate that, I did the pale skin, but then I use a Micron pen to draw in the lines. And I think it's cool because it actually has this like nice little transition from human skin to ghoul skin because of the delusion of the flesh eater quartz. And that's the story I wanted to tell. So it looked too stark, so I wanted to put some REIKLAND FLESHADE through an airbrush just to give it like a suntan kind of life to it. And it's pretty cool when you work into these shades. REIKLAND FLESHADE does a great job for skin, adding some of that red tonality to the skin. It's pretty cool, but I do want it to go a little bit heavy on this one because I wanted it like sunburned. So there you go. All right, so a little bit of Evil Sun Scarlet now, and just getting the tips of these hair follicles, just trying to do some edge highlighting over here, just picking out things that I think would definitely need to stand out, because the way it was boring, so I wanted to add some more interest to that area right there. Okay, working on the leader here, which is Duke Crackmarrow. Not a lot of lore on these guys, really. So which is typical for Flesh Eater Quartz not to have a lot of lore on them, because it's you add the lore. You're part of the story. That's what I like about this. So all right, some heavy blue-gray going on to the beard, just hitting tips of it where I think the light would hit. That's it. That's all I'm doing. Just accenting the light. And if as long as I have most of that color on there, it's going to appear as if the whole thing is white. Again, doing something different with white hair. Retrospective, I might have done the other one with the long hair, with the white hair. I might have done it in this style. I think it would have been a little better. I don't know. I'd have to try it in the next miniature that I have white hair on. All right, so I am going to do this axe. Now, one of the things that I want to learn about doing this model, because every time I do a model, I try to push myself in one area. I wanted to do TMM with an NMM style axe here, but add rust effects to it too. So I did a light study here, and I know the light's going to catch here on the edge, and it's going to glimmer on the bottom a little, so I'm just going to go in with white. Now I'm going to paint over all of this. All right, I'm going to do edge highlighting where I think everything is going to catch as well, and I'm just going to set the values in. I'm just setting where I think the light's going to catch. This is a cylinder, so it'll go down the line. Another cylinder will go down the line. Cone on the top. And just studying light and the shapes that it creates, and just putting white where I think the lights would be the brightest highlight. And I'm really happy with the progress there. Looks pretty cool. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some blue ink, and I love the way it's translucent with the ink, so I'm just going to get the blue in there, kind of like that blue steel, just see what it looks like. So that's kind of shading that I'm going to do right there. And just hitting the blue skies in there and just getting in there and leaving the white in the center where it's most bright. Again, just getting a feel for it. I'm going to cover all of this. I'm just putting some base values in so I know where to paint later on when I paint the true metallic metals, right? All right, so I'm just going to add some of the white in there because I want it to gleam. That's the idea here, and everything else after that is refinement. Okay, I'm using steel, pale burnt metal, and I'm going to use chrome in order to simulate this metal shining, and I'm going to do a TMM in a non-MMM style, and of course I'm going to do the blue ink from Vallejo Game Color. Again, link in the description if you want Vallejo Game Color. Okay, so everything that's black I'm going to do is steel because that's the darkest true metallic metal that I have in that combination right there. And I'm going to make sure I go all over the model. So yeah, this is Duke Krakemore and the rest of the Grymwatch. Krakemore actually has a muster ability, so he can actually bring back members of the Grymwatch if they fall in battle. So it's pretty cool there. Duke Krakemore actually has a movement of 6 inches, a save of 5 up save, wounds of 4, and the bravery is 10. His halberd has a range of 2 attacks. He has 3 attacks, 3 up to hit, 3 up to wound, -1 red, and 2 damage. The Grymwatch in AOS actually has Bone and Weapons and Filthy Claw, which is a range of 1, attacks 2, 4 up save, 4 up wound, no rend, and damage 1. But the bats actually have 1 inch range, D6 attacks, 4 up hit, 4 up wounds, and 1 damage. Alright, the abilities for Krakemore is Muster the Grymwatch, and then Gallant Champion, add 1 to the damage inflicted by each successful attack made by this model that it targets a monster. So this one is a monster hunter. If you see you're up against a monster, you may want to do that. Going in with the chrome now, just to get in the highlights where the white would be. Just covering over all the white. So you see I set the initial values, and then I just go over it with the true metallic metal, so we can have that gradient right there. It's all about wet blending, so I'm working super quick. Not literally this quick because I sped it up, but that's the way it looks. And this is the way it plays out for AOS, even though it's not in the battle tome. I had to print out the sheet for the statistics for these guys. I'm not going to use it in my list, I don't think so. I mean, I might try it, see what it works out and how it works in there. Okay, gotta go some Intensity. The blue inks, another new. I'm just going to glaze in the colors. I'm trying to go for Sky Earth, and it's just a taste of it. You really want to do a taste of it. So at first I put in a lot of it, and then I tone it back later on. Just trying to get in there, kind of sop some of the stuff off. really understate that blue, understate the red on the bottom or a warm color on the bottom. And this way you have a reflectant of the sky and a reflectant of the ground itself. So really wanted to get in that and reflect it on all the pieces that were steel on this model, just going through right there. And some of the stuff needed corrected because it was just a little bit too blue. So I go back and, I hit in some more chrome. And that's what painting is. You go back and forth until you're happy, right? So that's what I'm going to do. Just setting some values and doing something a little bit new. So there it is. We're going to do some dry rust now to really reinforce the earth. And we're just poking it into the holes itself. And we're just letting those drip lines come in there. It's dried rust. So it's been rusty for a while. He's one that likes to sit in the back anyway and command. So I don't know how much action his rusty axe will get, but it'll get some action. Okay, so next up, some copper from Vallejo Metal Color. Okay, so Vallejo Metal Color. That copper, I haven't really been 100% happy with coppers lately, but this one's okay. I mean, the best ones I've ever used, actually. So it actually does that, but I'm going to cover some of this, and you're going to see what I cover it later with, adding a layer. There's the thing about metals. You want to add a lot of different layers to add a lot of different interest to it, especially if it's something so big. Some verdigris is next from Vallejo Game Effects. All right, great set to have. Again, link in the description if you want to pick that up, and a kickback goes to the channel if you do, at no cost to you. All right, so getting some drip lines, and what I do is I'm just setting some values in, and I go in some water and I dilute it later. Okay, so next up, just to reinforce those bones on there, I thought it was a bit too light, so I'm just going to go in there and just keep on building up, using a wash to build up, and going from the bottom to the top, because I want the edges or the top of the bone, the tip of the bone, to be the darkest. So, and then I go for Agrax shade on the bottom. It's a true wash. I'm really sopping it into the corners there. I want it to really just pool into the areas and be like a wasteland right there, because I'm trying to make it match, again, my army. And they have like a ground there, but I usually use AK Interactive pumice to do that. Okay, so next up, some bone white, and I'm gonna go in there, and since I think this bone is like a little bit too dark with that bone white, I'm just gonna go in there and just catch the edge highlights on some of these bone on the shoulder pad right there, just to bring up the color just a tad bit. Again, going down all the edge highlights there. Okay, so next up, we're going to do those scarifications again. Oh, the bruising with that violet, right? Just going that violet ink and pushing in those values, getting in the bruising, adding more interest to the model. Love working in inks. Again, the set will be down and available to you down in the description if interested in helping out the channel at no cost to you. All right, so next up we have these bats. Now, this is the first time I ever painted bats, so this was new for me. So of course I'm going to do it in the same wing style as I do all my winged creatures for my Flesh Eater Quartz army. We're starting in with some Mephiston red. Notice I'm not masking anything off. I'm being adventurous with a new airbrush. So I like this airbrush, the Infinity CR Plus. I'll put a link in the description if you're interested in getting that. I'm learning how to use it, so I'm learning the pressure of it. I'm used to using the Badger Renegade Chrome, and I've been using that for forever, so I'm just getting used to this one as well. So coming back with some Evil Sunz Scarlet 50-50 mix with some red ink from Vallejo Game Ink, and doing that 50-50, and it really pops. It really pops. So yeah, I want those Parappa de Prappen wings. Parappa da Rappa. All right. I remember Parappa. Fun game. Okay, yeah, so you can definitely see how bright these wings are, and it's going from black all the way to brightness and getting that value. All right, so next up, the I was hitting I actually wanted to do some gray tones onto the belly. So I wanted to get that in there, and I didn't know how to do it. So I was trying with an airbrush first. I didn't think I liked it too much. And then I do it with a hand brush later on. Okay, so getting those reds in the front first. And yeah, it's just doing a transition from black and trying to get leathery skin was really rough, and it's something I wanted to try new for me to do since it's the first bats I do. So I'm gonna go in and hit it on I'll use different kind of philosophies to get that done. So first off, I want to blacken everything up. All right, I blacken everything up again with Vallejo Model Color Black. And just to try to get that true black sensation going through. Winds up being a little bit glossy, which is helpful if you want to go for leathery, right? Or slimy, if you wanted to do that. I matte it down later though, just a little bit. I don't want it to be too shiny. So there it is, true black. And next up I'm going to go around and paint half that body. Again, going on with the theme that these humans, the delusion itself changes the color of the skin to the green. So as the bat is actually, well, decapitated him, but is taking the rest of the body, it's actually the delusion is so strong, it's starting to turn him into a flesh eater quartz kind of body. So I have that there. So once I put in the paint, I'm going to go in with that Micron pen, again, just highlighting the edges. Really cool effect to do that when you want something to transition from one color to another. Just outline it or black line it. You can do this with a brush. You don't have to use a Micron pen, but yeah, Micron pens do help, and I'll try to find the link for the description down below, so if you're interested in that, you can look that up as well, right? Alrighty, so Agrax Earthshade again onto the bottom once everything is done. And we're getting close to the end. I can see the finish line here. Wow, what a marathon of doing a whole bunch of minis going back and forth. Well, the minis weren't hard to paint. It wasn't about the painting. It's just editing the video with all these different minis and putting what where. It was interesting, that's for sure. And then I tattooed up the floor. It says there, all is one in Nagash. Do other thing, all hail the king, I say, and I even put a TMP sign there, and we are all mad here with a smiley face dripping. I just wanted to add some fun to it, so yeah, I tagged it up. All right, so next up, here is that ivory white that I did for the teeth, and I just really wanted to pop, and this white will die down over time. I'm looking at it now, and it's not stark contrast. It does give it an accent, though. For something that is so dark, you kind of want it to pop, especially because these bats are actually angled forward. So when you put them on the tabletop, you really don't see the red wings really closely. Okay, trying to get those values in. Again, setting the values first, painting bravely, and just putting, after all that work I put into it, just pop in some color wherever I think color might be. And if I make a mistake, I'll just, paint it black and start over again, no problem. So just setting where I want the highlights to be, and it's gonna look ugly. It's gonna be the ugly phase right here. And then I'll just, once I get all there where I think the light should be, and I'm using a light overhead to see wherever it reflects to me, that's where I'm adding the light. And that's how I'm using that as a guide. So the reflection of my actual painting light. So once that's in there, I'm going to wet blend some black with that gray, that heavy blue gray. And yeah, just trying to blend in those pieces. And it was kind of tough. I was told that, blending white on black is like the hardest thing to do when you're doing blends. Of course, that's what I'll do. That's the first thing I'll try to blend. All right, just getting some black in there and covering the details. And next up, what I'm doing is Tamaya clear red. And I use that. You can use blood for the blood god if you want to. But just adding a whole bunch of gore and just really laying it on thick and having all these surfaces bleed out. So I'm putting like a whole bunch of blood going through, dripping, pooling up. And it was kind of fun just to do that because it's a kind of easy step. You don't have to be too careful with it, which is pretty cool. All right, well, this is done. I'll catch you on the outro.
it is, all painted up and ready for the game table. Well, if you would like to support the channel, I suggest you click on one of those affiliate links that I have, and the channel will get a kickback if you do so. And if you don't, I'm just glad that you came to hang out today. Well, if you like this video, like, share, comment, and subscribe, and we'll catch you next time on the Miniatures Paintbrush.